Grown Black Folks Talk, Black Historymaker series. We've been talking about how to defend your social media space. We've been talking about how to get paid to get free. You do not have to just be on social media spaces that pay you nothing to have to contend with trolls. Although in our first video, we talked about how we eliminate them from your site and then eliminate them from being entertaining them, period. But then we talked about the Hive blockchain, where I do a lot of my work, where I write what I want to write and get paid a little bit to do it. But the main thing is you do not have to deal with unproductive people. You get on there, you build community with people, and all of you can work together to have the blockchain pay you for the work that you do, for the content that you produce. But before you have to learn the blockchain, which is one way to set up a wall that's too high an entry barrier to most trolls, uh, you can find ways to get behind a paywall in Web 2.0 without having to do that. And when you get confident enough in your work and you get to the point that you're tired of playing around, and when you get to a certain level as a content producer, this is another way to have a platform to work out of that is not overrun. Now, Hive is one way, and it's just the one that I used because at the time I was looking for a way into cryptocurrency that I understood as someone who was a major creative, but not someone who had studied high finance. I caught up on some of those things later. In the process of finding that out, I also found out other things. This is going to be more of a general overview. YouTube. When you get to a certain level on YouTube, you can do members only content, which is premium content for the members of your page. In other words, you can do, doesn't mean that you don't do free information, but it means that you have certain things that people have to pay for the privilege of accessing. And again, that little barrier cuts the trolling down because most trolls are not going to pay extra. They'll find someone else who does not know and is not at a level to do that. Now, can you still control them? Absolutely. I taught you how to do that on the first video in this series. It'll be in the playlist. But at a certain point, you also deserve to be compensated for the value that you put out. Patreon is another way, very popular. There are other platforms. I'm going to leave you to Google all this out at your leisure. But I will tell you that what people also do is eventually they come off of the different sites hosted by other people and they get their own websites and they put together membership sites and courses and academies of their own. Several of the YouTube creators that I have recommended to you over the course of rebuilding this channel in the last 3 months have actually done that. Even I have a course out there. It's just not in this area of conversation yet. I have a book out there that discusses heavy duty issues, but we're not in that area of conversation yet. So I have a paywall where I write, you get access to my daily fiction work. And from there, I turned around and monetized that in a bunch of other different ways that you have to pay to get access to. I'm on Amazon in 3 spots. Now, I know that in the Black community, we are not the wealthiest community in the United States. We're not on track to ever be that. I know that was a very painful thing for me to tell you, but it is the truth. So a lot of people come at you and say things like, yeah, but we need things at a community rate. We need things for free. You're right. That's true. And I'm not saying, because I'm someone who provides a lot of value for free, that there will not be a place for that. But there also comes a time and a place where people need to invest in themselves and invest in those who are investing in them. You want some Black history? Here's some Black history. Go look at how many movements in the Black community were brought down because there was a population of people that could be either manipulated by outside forces about their insecurity and their inability to build, who were then used by outside forces to slow Black progress and stop it in its tracks. Or outside forces did not even have to do that. Because what you can also have happen is someone who's doing things in the Black community is carrying a lot of other people who are not able or willing to step up to the responsibility of building. And by the time they get classified as dead weight, they'd rather see the whole ship go down than to go down alone and walk that plank. You want some Black history? Go read about that. Go read about how many Black leaders, go read about how many Black movements were stopped like that. Everybody, Tony Gaskins did an entire 2 videos called Everybody Can't Go. He says in his videos that eventually what's going to happen is people who want, he was talking about relationships, people that want good outcomes in their relationships are going to have to work on themselves, and the people that work on themselves will find each other, and that will leave the ones who refuse to work on themselves out. But people who have done the work are going to be looking for people who've done the work. Zbigniew it's a hard name to say. Zbigniew Brzezinski, who was in foreign policy from Nixon to Bush II, said the world is being divided between masters and slaves. Well, that's actually two different ways of saying the same thing. You don't have to go buy a plantation to be a master. The world will be divided between those who have mastered themselves and mastered their opportunities and mastered their responsibility, and those who will be enslaved to everyone else. And if you look around, if you look online, that's already happening. If you look at the world, that's already happening. If you look at who's being targeted for the permanent underclass in the middle of the greatest wealth producing opportunities of the 20th and the 21st century, it's already happening. You're either going to step up to being a Black history maker who makes a history of freedom that people can step up to, and that begins on how you use your social media and move it through appropriately, or you are not. But the consequences are out there. You're either going to have people around you that assist you in the process, or you're not. Now, we're going to change gears a little bit. Speaking of finding assistance, you do know that as Black people, we've always had to work with those that work with us. No matter how pro-Black you want to be, you got to learn how to play well with others. Because one thing you want to do when your channel gets big enough is you want to hire someone who can be objective. You let them know what the rules are, and you outsource the process of blocking and banning and doing the security. And you bless someone else in the world with those USD that can make a difference in their life to make sure that they are more loyal. You can do that too and make your money stretch, because like I said, we're not the richest community in the United States. Learning how to play well with others, learning how to be a good commander to an international environment, learning how to work in a global environment in a respectful way. It's an important skill. We'll talk about it next time. You have to be able to work with resources that may be very different from you. We'll talk about it next time. Where do you find help to build the things you're going to need to build and to secure them if you are in a community where you can't always do that right now? I say that because I am a moderator on a channel here, and I lurk on many others. And I notice that if you have people too close to the subject, people tend not to moderate the people they agree with, fundamentally. So if people are too close to a particular subject, they don't work as well. And when you get to the point that you're running a business, because remember I said that here's how you get TB moth. Mr. TB Moth got taken out the home because it wasn't his home. He wasn't paying his bills. He wasn't being productive. And then he got into a ruckus and got put out. And not only him, but his family to the second generation. Remember that? Well, that happens on social media too. Because if you can't be objective about having people in the room, you can't do the work to learn how to tame who you entertain and tame who you see and learn how to not click off permanently to people that vex you. If you can't do this, if your moderators, because it's very tough issues we talk about in the Black community, are too close to the subject and you're too close to them, guess what? If you don't get outside help, people who can be objective about here's what I want done, you get to a certain size, you get above 100,000 users, you don't have them behind a paywall where they have to pay to be there, and that also helps control people's behavior, you get overwhelmed. So we're going to talk next time about where do you find help, whatever it is you're trying to build, whatever it is you're trying to do, how can you put that on an accelerated process with the understanding that we are going to use global resources. We're not going to keep it in the Black community necessarily starting out, because the most important thing for you to do is work with who gets you the results you need in the most timely manner of time. If you have Black people around you who can hold it together, great. But you better be prepared to use who's available and who can do the work. We'll talk about that next time. How do you virtually outsource and get work done? And I'll show you some of the work I've had done. By the way, Black people span the world. And there are Black people in other countries to whom USD is a blessing, with whom you can also do work if you want to keep it in the diaspora. There are Black people everywhere. So don't just hold yourself down to American Black resources. We're not the wealthiest people in America, probably never will be. So that means we're not the most resourced. Again, it's Black History Month. I know we don't want to hear it, You're going to hear it today because you're a history maker and you need to understand where you actually stand so that you can build and do better. All right. Today was about finishes up this portion of this series. Discipline your social media by getting rid of the people that are bringing nothing to the table, whether what you see and what you hear and what you allow on your pages. Cut the trolls off the knee. You troll over here, your butt disappear. That has to be your mindset. You troll over here, your butt disappear. I said that with my chest. You need to learn how to say it with your chest. Okay, after you've done that, then you learn how to get on platforms where you get paid to be there and where the entry barrier to troll you is a little bit higher. And then when you get to that point, you are in a world in which you're going behind a paywall, and now you're building membership sites, you're building courses, you're building whole academies so that people are paying for the privilege to learn from you, and that cuts down the foolishness even more. And then you can afford to hire people to also provide security for the things that you're doing. This is still in the social media ballpark, but we're changing gears from looking at social media to other things you can do and build next time. All right. Thank you for watching. You have a good Black History Month. We're going to keep going. You are not someone who just sits and performs and remembers. You are a history maker. Learn how to think and act like it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.